Kier invites you to drink of his water. Is it awful to say I don't care for that one?
It makes me nervous too.
As he spilt his lineage upon the soil. Kier invites you to drink of his water. As he spilt his lineage upon the soil.
Hello everyone and welcome to Geek Academy channel. I'm your detective host Igor, and today we're going to deep dive into Severance Season 2 Episode 4. Yet another extremely amazing episode. It looks like Severance doesn't really know how to TV show. You're supposed to start strong, then lower your expenses, lower the tempo, and then you're supposed to finish strong in season finale. But so far we have amazing episode 1, we have episode 2 that was even better, then we had episode 3 that was completely excellent, and we all thought, okay, it's not gonna get better than this already. And suddenly we get episode 4, which is in my mind is a complete masterpiece. So in today's video I'm gonna do something that I usually don't do. I'm gonna go almost chronologically while I'm deep diving and trying to break down every little piece of information.
And just as a production, you know, to go off and make this episode was like we were making a little movie.
It really was. And, you know, watching the episode again last night, I was like realizing just how expansive it is. And we were out there in the elements for what, 5 weeks?
Yeah,
like
I mean, we talked about how we were going to make this episode.
As you can hear, even Ben Stiller himself said that this episode is more like a film. This is a movie inside a TV show. And this is why I think the best way to break down this episode is go almost chronologically. So today we're gonna talk about whether they are all in some kind of a matrix, what is going on with Irving, and if we're ever gonna see him again. And of course we're gonna talk about Kier, Eagan's twin brother. Is he really real, or is it just another lie invented by Lumon? And what was the whole purpose of this Lumon retreat experience, if you may call it that way? But before we begin, as usual, I want to thank everyone who supports me on Patreon and on YouTube. Your financial support is what makes this channel possible. Thank you so much, and as usual, I prepared a lot of interesting information and a lot of facts for you, so...
These facts should be very pleasing. Try to enjoy each equally.
So this episode takes place in a location called Eagan National Forest. Now, whether this forest actually exists or not in this universe, we don't really know. Keep in mind that Lumon lies a lot, and I mean a lot. But obviously they were filming it in a real park, so it's probably some kind of a, I don't know, maybe a national reserve or something like this, but this is a real place, and it's kind of similar to the images we have seen before. It's not exactly like it, but since we are seeing the image of Kier Eagan looking at this place at his waters, like you remember this drawing from season 1 of Kier looking at his domain or whatever it is, and we are seeing it here in the DVD introduction. By the way, once again, we are going back in time. We know there are cars that are from the 80s, sometimes there's TVs that are from the 60s, and now we have a DVD player for some weird reason. Not, you know, like not a key card, not a flash card, not nothing, not a memory card, we have a DVD player here. So yeah, it kind of reminds this image that we have seen before, and you know, Kier invites you to drink of his water. Maybe it is the same location, maybe it's part of this location, maybe it was inspired by it, but I can see some connection here. So when I notice, I share. The motto of this channel: there is no detail too little to be shared. So we move forward once again. The main question right now is this a real location or not? And what I mean by that is, this is obviously a real location, like the image you're seeing right now, this is a real location. This is a New York park, so you can find it, and you can, if you live in New York, you can go ahead and actually visit this waterfall. Now, but this whole episode and this whole snowy landscape, is it actually real, like it's a part of a real world, or is it some kind of a simulation, something similar to the Matrix? And we've talked about the similarities between this TV show and Matrix already many times. We have the white rabbit car of Miss Selvig, we have the red and the blue, you know, like the colors that are very dominant here. The red are the Audis, the blue are the Innies. In Matrix you can take 2 pills. The blue will keep you in the Matrix, the red will set you free, and you will go to the outside, you will become your Audi basically. So please keep this question in your mind because we're gonna get back to it while we are making this breakdown. So the hero, the main protagonist of this episode is without any doubt Irving, and by the way, John Turturro is absolutely crushing it in this episode. Seeing somebody bringing that much of a level, that much of a genius performance, this is like, once again, I'm so happy to be alive in this period of time when this TV show is actually airs. So yeah, Irving is the main hero, and once again, remember his story this season. He wakes up in the elevator, he understands how alone he is. Even his words like, the world outside is not for us. So in the inside, he is alone. On the severed floor, there is no bird anymore. So there's nothing for him there. On the outside, there is no world for him, for somebody like him or like any other Innie. And Bird there is married to somebody else. So he is very, very lonely. And the cinematography choice to show him like that, just a small black dot in the middle of a whole huge location of white ice, is once again both, symbolically and both cinematography wise, it's absolutely genius. Once again, hats off. I don't know if this show is not gonna get all of the Emmys. I don't know, like, where is the logic in this? So this episode kind of brings the conclusion to Irving's story. Everything that was holding him in the severed floor was Dylan. Dylan was the one to convince him to stay and not to sacrifice himself. He was already going to outside. He was already ready to kill himself, basically. And Dylan was the one to convince him to stay. And we can already see in the previous episode that Dylan is basically not there. Dylan is not there for him anymore. Dylan is right now motivated by visiting his family. So he's like, yeah, the stealth, you remember this moment, like, you go by yourself. So how many times he can go to the OND and remember and reminiscent about birth? Obviously not until the end of life. So he knows there's nothing more for him in the severed floor, and this is why it's so logical and it's simultaneously so emotionally impactful the way this episode ends. Now, this moment is also interesting for me. Just for him screaming that I'm on the fucking ice, I know it's probably not meant to serve as some kind of a clue or some kind of a hint for us, the detectives of this TV show, but once again, as soon as I hear ice, something triggers here. I mean, we saw this thing many times. We saw the intro when there's broken ice and there's White Rabbit of Miss Selvig drowning there. We saw everything that happened with the Lexington letter, with Peggy K almost killing those kids because she slipped on the black ice, and then she was once again killed in the car accident, supposedly. Also Gemma once again supposedly slipped on an ice and her car somehow moved from the road and basically crashed in the tree or something like this. So the whole ice theme kind of repeats itself, and it makes me think already this is like the weapon of choice by Lumon, the tool to kill people by Lumon. They choose the icy roads, they sabotage the cars, they do something with the ice to kill people that basically don't serve their purpose anymore, or they are needed somehow in a different way to serve the purpose and the goals of Lumon. By the way, I narrated completely the Lexington letter. I have this video on my channel. It's only 35 minutes long. If you listen to it on speed X2, you're gonna finish it in like 17-80 minutes. So please check it out. It's actually very good as far as I can see from the comments. Another thing that was kind of keeping Irving motivated is his suspicion towards Helly R. He was the first one to basically question her about the Night Gardener story. And I so far still have questions even after the whole revelation in the end of this episode. Like, what with this story? I mean, Helena Eagan, the most powerful woman on planet Earth, couldn't invent any better story than the Night Gardener? Something better than that? Like anything that's not gonna raise suspicions towards you? No, okay, no, then no. So we can see here, this is one of those moments when you are ready. If you have been suspicious, now you get like a clear confirmation. Whenever there's a moment like this in a TV show or a movie, when somebody appears out of nowhere and they say, I don't know, where did I come from? They lie and they know exactly where did they come from. They're probably the killer, the mole, or whatever this is. Everybody else know where they did wake up. She for some reason doesn't know until a later moment when she just invents something. Also, it's very interesting that in this moment when Dylan is asking them like, is this really you guys? Helly, or should I say Helena, was the one to say, of course it is us. I just think it's a little bit ironic because she's obviously lying here. Anyway, I did a video yesterday, is it Helena or Helly? Kinda irrelevant already, but anyway, if you didn't check it out, you can go ahead. I think it's very entertaining. I tried my best to make it as entertaining as possible. If not, it's also...
The episode where they go, it's like the Lumon's version of a corporate retreat. Yeah. But it's in freezing wasteland where, it's called an Ortbo, where Milchik is putting them out in the elements. And I always wanted the episode to be very visual and to be not a lot of dialogue. At least the way it ended up in the first part of the episode has very little dialogue. And to be stark and, kind of otherworldly.
We are starting to dive into the whole topic of whether this is a Matrix kind of simulation or this is actually a real world. And once again, there are arguments for both scenarios. Now, here we can see Dylan and his theories, they're refining the numbers to clean the sea because, the humanity is basically fucked. There was some kind of an apocalyptic event and now they are the ones to clean the sea for future civilizations. He is basically a strongman outside. He always have those grandiose theories, somewhat, even conspiracy theories. So he's saying like, I knew there was no actual ceiling. So it kind of feels like he still thinks there are inside of Lumon, they're inside of this building, or maybe this is the real place and everything they've been doing in the severed floor is actually a simulation. Both of the scenarios can actually possibly happen. Anyway, we're moving forward, and this is, in my mind, the biggest clue that everything here is a simulation. I mean, look at this image. Okay, so we have Mark standing on a cliff here, also, and once again, a real location. This is not a green screen, nothing else. And look at this boulder here. Okay, so no TV here, no TV. Okay, so when we move to the next shot, for some freaking reason, the same boulder, the same cliff, suddenly there is a TV there with a DVD player without any plugins, without any electricity. I don't know about you, I don't remember DVDs that work on batteries. Maybe they were, but I kind of doubt they were because it doesn't seem logical to me. So it all feels very surreal, just like the creators intended to be. But I don't know whether it was just, the creative choice for us to find only the hidden meaning, or it was chosen to be filmed in this surreal manner because it basically says to us that this is not a real place, this is a simulation. So here in this moment, like once again, the same cliff, and we suddenly have the TV there. I mean, if there is nobody there hiding behind this boulder, I don't know, Mr. Milchik there is hiding like in a cartoon, and then when they walk from one cliff to another, he's like just fast, he's running, putting the TV, and then like take his parachute and jumps from the cliff so they will not notice him as soon as they arrive. The other explanation is this is all a freaking simulation. So we move forward to this place, and by the way, on this shot, how much of a robot does Milchik look here? Just completely unhuman. And I know that many times the actors told that this is not a TV show about clones, they're not creating clones, but what about cyborgs? Maybe there are some of the people here that are basically not real. I mean, Miss Huang can easily be a robot, can easily be some kind of a, like iRobot type of situation when you're like made of metal, but you have a conscience and you have the eye, you have a personality. I don't know, maybe, I know it's completely out there, but we're brainstorming, there are no bad ideas, so I'm saying basically everything that comes to my mind. By the way, Andor retreat team building occurrence, if you like rearrange the letters, it will spell robot. I don't know if it's intentional or it's just a coincidence, but once again I notice I share. And now let's listen to the moment from the last podcast, between Ben Stiller, Adam Scott, and the guest was the composer for the TV show. Let's listen to what he has to say.
We had been talking about what if there's one sound for the Innies and one sound for the Audis, and the Innie world is electronic and the outie world is organic.
It kind of caught my attention, you know, like dividing the tunes for, you know, the inside, the Innies, they're more metallic, they're more electronic, more artificial, unhuman-like, and outies are like more humane, more emotional, more alive notes and sounds. Maybe it's just a coincidence. If it was just one piece of the puzzle, just one piece of information that says there is some kind of a simulation, I would probably disregard it and ignore it. But so far, it's not the only one. So we're gonna take this and put it in our pile of evidence that support this theory. Anyway, we move forward once again. There is a lot of, you know, questions in this whole retreat situation. Milchik is basically saying that with your Auri's blessings, we're gonna spend 2 days here, 2 whole days in this place. Now let's imagine this situation. First of all, Milchik comes to, let's say, Mark, and he's saying to him, okay, we want to do some kind of a retreat for your Innies. Are you gonna be okay with that? And let's say he is, even though it's kind of doubtful, but you know, they give some kind of a bonus, I don't know, maybe extra money, and they give him like any kind of incentive. Okay, but then you're supposed to drive this Mark to this place that looks completely unlivable. It's cold, it looks like, I don't know, 102,000, 1 million degrees below Celsius, so it's not gonna be livable, it's not gonna be enjoyable. And then you take somebody like Irving and you do the same with him, and then you take him to the lake, to the middle of the snowy, icy lake, when there's a good chance you're gonna fall and drown to your death in the cold ass water. And then you tell him, okay, now close your eyes. In a couple of seconds, you're gonna just wake up here as your Innie, and it's gonna be so much fun. And then he just stand there, and once again, the person who brought him there can somehow magically disappear, I don't know, from this place, because it takes usually just a couple of seconds to switch from Audi to Innie. So once again, another very strong evidence that this is not a real place, this is a simulation. And I actually think they're inside someone's brain, but we're gonna get to that a little bit later in this video. So yeah, he talks about, you know, they did Eagan National Forest, we're gonna take time here, and the truth that you seek lies within the 4th appendix. Now you may ask, what about the first 3? We have seen them many times in the severed floor, especially in the MDR room. There is the compliance handbook, you know, this is the Bible, and we have the 3 appendix, the 3 for the severed people. But there is apparently the 4th one, which looks way different than the first 3. Now once again, there's a question, is this something that was invented just, you know, in a matter of couple of days for our Innies, you know, for this kind of experience? And there is no Dieter, there is no, you know, story of Kier Eagan and his twin brother, and this is all just some kind of a quest to once again bring the point and make some kind of experiment on our Innies? Or is it actually real, and there was a book like that for some weird reason was hidden from the Innies? And I don't see why it would be hidden, because I don't see that our Innies react in some kind of a suspicious or dangerous for Lumon way. They're absorbing information, they're learning how to tame late tempers, and also we have seen that Lumon have enough resources to create, you know, stop motion animation in a matter of couple of days. So it doesn't feel difficult for them to create this, you know, book, whatever it is, with the numeric, Roman numeric here of number 4. It's not gonna be that difficult for them to invent the story and write it in a matter of day. You know how freelancers work. If somebody is gonna ask for me to edit a video, I'm gonna charge them one price. But if somebody's gonna tell me, look, I need it in a couple of hours, I'm gonna charge X3. Or at least X2, the amount of money as I usually do, because this is what urgency gives you. And obviously some company like Lumon can pay you 10 times more or even 100 times more than you usually charge in order for you to deliver results when they need them to be delivered. So yeah, it sounds completely plausible and possible to me, and since it's all, in my opinion, happens in some sort of a simulation, then once again, all you need to do is just create the story and create the images and then upload them to, you know, to the simulation program. So here in this moment, once again, it all feels like some sort of a quest. If you ever played a video game, especially like a simple quest game from the 90s, this is what it was like. You start from some point, then you get a hint, you go there, you get another hint, then you go to the different location, you get another hint until you finish the game and you get to, to the end point. So you need to go to the Caesar cave, and then you're gonna find this clue, and then from there you're gonna go there. So it kind of feels like this quest that was designed specifically for our Innies. But once again, there are gonna be moments that gonna make me think that all of this place is real, or at least it simulates a real place that actually exists. So yeah, we learn about Dieter. The word from Germanic means basically strong warrior or something like this. Kier, by the way, is Irish word, Irish name that says the Dark One, so he's basically the Voldemort of this place, or Sauron, whatever you want to call them, especially since we have Gollum in this episode. And the creepy quasi-Shakespearean narrative continues. So we learn that Dieter was a twin brother of Kier. Yeah, there is a lot to unpack here. So maybe there was actually a twin, which I doubt, or maybe it's once again some kind of a symbolism, like there were once like two different emotions, two different personalities inside of Kier, and in order to tame the second personality, to kill himself within himself, this is what he went through. Now he is basically describing some kind of a psychological adventure, but in order to make it entertaining and understandable for our Innies, it became this kind of an adventure, as I told you, that it's similar to the quest games from the 90s. And going with this whole twin theme, we have this moment when Dylan realizes that those weird figures of themselves that they have been seeing through all of the episodes, those are their twins. You remember this kind of a creepy dolls of Mark and then Helly and then Dylan that kind of look like them but don't really look like them. The CGI looks a bit weird. Now once again, this TV show already convinced us it has enough resources. And even though Ben Stiller said in his podcast he doesn't really like to use CGI, if he's gonna need, he's probably gonna find somebody who's gonna make a very good, believable CGI. And also, if you want to make them completely undistinguishable from our main heroes, you can just dress the actors in a different clothes and make them, do this image point that way, but they specifically made them so freaking weird and so surreal, because I think they have a very interesting purpose of this whole experience. You remember the intro once again, and also the first intro from the first season. There were always a lot of marks, and I was always questioning myself, why? What is it supposed to say? We know there are two different marks, there's the Innie and there is the Outie, but every time we watch the intro, or he's carrying like a lot of himself, just like their balloons, or here we have a lot of marks just falling on this icy river here, because, I don't know, something happened to them, their head is starting to pop and becomes a balloon. So this theme of many marks, or many Hellys, or Irvings, or Dylans, starting to make some sense to me. Once again, we're gonna get to it. Anyway, like the whole twin, even symbolic, even the way it was shot cinematographically, like this moment when Irving and Mark screaming at each other, are you there? Yeah, come in here. They even standing similar, like their hands even in the same motion, like this motion, almost like praise Kier motion, which obviously we're gonna see a little bit later with Milchik. But sometimes I just want to stop for a second with the whole detective process, with the whole finding the truth process, and I just want to enjoy. I just want to switch off my brain and absorb this amazing, beautiful, genius-like cinematography. This TV show is absolutely astonishing. The way the cameraman chooses his angles, the way the editor or whatever, the location scout, they all choose places and they all color grade those places in this amazing, simultaneously realistic and unrealistic colors that creates so much of the vibe of this show. It is, I don't know even how to express it. I'm just fucking amazed by how good this TV show is. It is absolutely amazing. It's one of the best TV shows I have ever seen in my life. Season 2 is crushing it. Absolutely crushing it. Like, there is nothing bad I have to say about season 2. Not even one episode was a letdown so far. Everything is a fucking blast. Anyway, let's move forward to our, story. So they all supposed to go to Wu's Hollow. You remember the four tempers, one of them was Wu. It is actually, the bride that we have seen on the image of Kier Eagan taming thy tempers. We also have seen the bride in the waffle party, the very weird 50 Shades of Waffle Party scene. But if you remember episode 3 of season 1, when Kier Eagan was talking about him taming thy tempers, he actually specifically says that he entered the cave of his mind.
I walked into the cave of my own mind, and there I tamed them.
So this is something that happens here in the box up top here. This is not a real cave like they're trying to present to our Innies in this episode, and like he didn't really see the bride there. So it's all symbolism. It's all taking a real experience, a real psychological experience, and turning it to some kind of a fairy tale story with a moral that our Innies supposed to take from this story. So here we have, once again, as I told you, this is a video game, almost a video game. We have a map, we have the end, the end goal of this map, the waterfall, we have the roads, like this is the cliff they were standing on, this is the icy lake. By the way, look at the lake, it's broken, so I guess lucky Irving that they are in the middle of the winter here. And here in this moment, when Dylan is basically expanding on the story, the path of Dieter and Kier, it once again feels like this was just one person. There was no any Dieter, there was just Kier Eagan, and he had this duality inside of me. He has those different goals in life. One of them was supposed to probably inherit his father ether factory or something like this and become this powerful CEO. The other just wanted to go to the woods and live as a poppers. By the way, this episode, the amount of times I went to Google to check what this word's supposed to mean, since you can hear that English is not my main language. Basically today I learned a lot of words that I'm never gonna use again in my life, but hopefully never gonna be a popper in my life, hopefully. Anyway, so by the way, this once again the language, and if you're gonna read old books, sometimes those kind of weird scenes, sometimes the sex scenes, sometimes something even else, they are written like that. They are like written in a very weird way for our modern mind. So he always crept like this at this hour. Once, blah blah blah, concealed by Flora, my brother unfastened himself. He took his pants off. The din of his fervor fell strangely into concert with the music of the wood, and for a moment I could not tell the two apart. So basically, you understand what Dieter was doing in the forest, and Kier was like, oh my god, this is exactly like the forest. The sounds that he makes, the movements that he makes, this is so natural-like. He became just one with the nature. I mean, Helly was laughing at this scene. I think a lot of us were laughing at this, but once again, I think this is all important because this story tells how Kier Eagan killed inside of himself this part of his own personality. The more romantic, the more the more dreaming kind of a person, the one that wants to escape and be free in the woods and live from, from the berries and the meat he can find there. This kind of a person was killed at this moment, and I think this is one of the goals of this whole retreat, and this is why we have those weird twins of our heroes, maybe because they're supposed to kill them in the end of this retreat, to remind them that there is nothing outside, there is no outie for them, they're only here, and they're supposed to kill this idea of them being outside. Okay, so we move to the best line of this episode. So he spilled his lineage upon the soil. Ew. Anyway, moving forward, once again, they arrive to the point of destination. This is where they see all of the twins, they are showing to them, okay, here we are. And here in this moment, by the way, as I told you, Lumon lies and lies a lot. I mean, what is even the point of this lie? Once again, just to make the experience for the Innies to be more memorable. I mean, the confidence with which Milkshake is saying that this is the tallest waterfall on the planet. I mean, if I wouldn't know better, I would even start to doubt myself. I would be like, this is probably the tallest waterfall. I mean, look how confident he is. Maybe I'm wrong. Even though it's kind of a tiny waterfall, like you have way bigger, I have seen way bigger, and I'm pretty sure you have seen way bigger than that. So this is the moment with the Innies. And by the way, look at Mr. Milkshake here. He's standing there like a reverend. He's basically praise in the glory of the Wolves Hollow, a place where Kier Eagan masturbated and then killed himself, and then killed his desire to masturbate in the woods. Oh, I hope YouTube is not going to be able to indicate that I'm saying this word, and I'm not going to get some kind of a copyright situation here. Anyway, moving to this moment, and once again, look at the twins of our Innies. I mean, Dylan and Irving look kind of okay, even though Dylan looks a little bit brain dead, but Mark looks completely creepy. He looks like, you know, the weird version of him when he was trying his kind eyes. You remember when Helly wanted to kill herself in previous season, and then Mr. Milkshake told Mark to use his kind eyes when she's gonna come back to the severed floor. So he had this, you know, like the weird smile with the weird look. Here he even standing like with the hands like he's some kind of a robot. Helly is also with the head like that, like she's some kind of a character from a horror movie. Are there actually robots, or are they some kind of an empty shell of a person? Maybe something similar to a balloon filled with just air that you can basically control and tell it exactly where you want it to go? I don't know. I would love to know what you think about it in the comments. So we go to the continuation of the story of Kier and Dieter, but before that, let's welcome our Innies to the best resort in this Winterland. By the way, once again, the blue color of everything, and the cinematography is just absolutely astonishing. I'm not getting tired of saying that. Maybe you are already tired of hearing me say that, but there is nothing I can do here with myself. If I see something like that, I just cannot shut up. This is why I have this YouTube channel. So maybe somebody will listen, and I'm gonna be a crazy person that talks to the wall inside of my house and I'm like, oh my god, Severance is amazing. Oh my god, Severance is amazing. Oh my god, Severance is amazing. Luckily, there is YouTube. So here we also learn that for Innies, there is no concept like toilet paper. I don't know why it's important, but I hope it is somehow. He's even saying to them like there is 4-ply washroom tissue. Not toilet paper, washroom tissue. So if Milkshake is Milkshake, I think right now it's pretty logical to basically switch toilet paper to washroom tissue. I mean, if I'm gonna go to the store and I'm gonna order or buy one, I'm gonna be like asking for washroom tissue, and if the store clerk is not gonna know what I want from him, that's his problem already, as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, like once again, Kier Eagan everywhere, he's on, you know, on marshmallows, but because once again, this is a 5-star resort, so you're gonna have marshmallows with Kier Eagan on his face. And here Mark looks at a fire, by the way, very beautiful moment. I don't remember if he noticed the fire at Rickon's house, because probably they have like some kind of a fireplace there, but here he looks like, you know, in a wildfire here on his torch, and this is the first time he focuses on it. And obviously, you know, fire is beautiful. There is even a saying like people can watch endlessly how the fire burns, how the water flows in the sea, and how somebody who is good at his job works. Or something else. Maybe the ending is different. But fire is beautiful, but this is not the reason why we're discussing it, because in this moment, like when they're all admiring fire, Miss Huang is completely sincere. Look how sincere she is. Her eyes are sincere. Usually when she smiles, her eyes are completely dead. Like just like Milkshake. She can smile, but her eyes are not smiling at all. And here she's this happy child that basically sits around the fire and is gonna have the, you know, the camp trip that she always thought about and always maybe dreamt about. She's like, pretty cool, huh? She's like really, really sincerely amazed by fire. So is she an Innie? Probably. Is she a cyborg robot situation? maybe, after this episode, I can entertain any theory already. There is nothing that off the table right now. So yeah, the whole situation with, the seal, we're gonna discuss the seal, but Helly is trying to basically win Irving over because she realizes that somebody like her could have probably invented a better story than talking to the night gardener that, tends to flowers in the middle of the night. Stupid. This is just stupid. Anyway, another interesting thing, the whole musical instrument here that Miss Huang is playing. Let's listen to the podcast.
So a theremin is like the only instrument where you don't physically touch anything.
Right.
You're using your hand to block, I think, a wave, and that is creating the sound.
So you remember the ending of episode 3, everything was related to brainwaves as far as we are concerned, if we believe to everything that, Rigabi said. We probably should, because she's the one who probably invented the whole, severance process. So once again, there is an instrument that kind of works with waves, and once again, this is a very interesting connection. But also, I'm kind of curious about this whole buckle belt here. The same one that Mark is wearing here, like everybody is wearing this buckle belt apparently. It looks very big and massive, and it probably has some kind of an imagery, but no matter how much I zoom in, it becomes very, very blurry and I cannot understand what it is. If any of you have idea, I would love to hear it in the comments. So here, once again, another interesting moment that kind of makes me think about the whole story of Kier and Dieter is that they need to return to father. Now, I'm probably a bit cliche here, but once again, right away I imagine, this father image, somebody who is basically the director or the owner of this whole Eater factory, and he has a son who is Kier Eagan, or maybe he has two sons, Kier and Dieter. One of them supposed to be an heir, or both of them supposed to be heirs, and one of them doesn't really want to, so they go outside to the forest because they want to escape. One of them actually is more responsible, he wants to come back, and the other doesn't really want to come back, so one of them kills another because he wants to become actually the heir and become, the next CEO. And the way father is written here, I know it's just subtitles and it's not official Apple subtitles, but once again, if you write father with a capital letter, it's supposed to mean something, or maybe I'm just missing a point here. Maybe, grammatically, because it's like you're mentioning a specific father and not just any father, you're supposed to write it with a capital letter. Once again, somebody who knows English way better than I am, please let me know what happens here, but there is some kind of a father figure. So once again, is it really Kier who killed Dieter, or maybe Dieter killed Kier and just pretends to be Kier eventually at the end of the day? So it's also a situation, something that's very plausible, and it's usually something that happens when two twin brothers kill each other. Like in this moment when Kier promises to Dieter to look after him in the ether mill. They started as a pharmaceutical company, and then they developed and they became like a huge monopoly in almost every industry. Those kind of stories, they usually go in that way. Like there's like two people, there's like two brothers, one of them supposed to be the good CEO, one of them is like the good son, and the other is not the bad apple there, he's the rebellious one, and then the rebellious actually kills the good one, and he's now needs to pretend that he is the one who is actually Kier, or he is the one who's supposed to be CEO. He is actually the heir to the throne of the ether mill factory. By the way, the ether mill, you remember this image, we saw it before, the courtship of Kier and Imogen. So maybe, yeah, he was one of those owners who basically didn't shy of making his hands dirty, so he worked with everybody and he saw like Imogen there. Or once again, there's also a theory that there was no Kier, no Imogen, and this is all just a story, which I don't support actually, especially after today's episode. Now, the whole killing scene is very weird. It's obviously didn't state that he was the one to kill him, but probably he was the one to kill him, because who else? He just, his eyes came out because there was a sudden torrent of pus from his skull. By the way, pus is usually yellow. By the way, sorry for the image, but we have to make our research. And suddenly moss that tore easily from his bleeding scalp. So basically he killed his brother, and his brother became one with nature. Maybe this is one of the reasons we have seen the seal. I was asking myself, why are we looking at the seal? What is the importance of the seal? Obviously, what the hell is even seal doing in this place? doesn't look like there is a big body of water right here already in this place. They're in the middle of the forest. There is some kind of a small river, some kind of a small lake here, but it's not a place for seals. You know, seals usually don't live and habitat in places like that. But we see him like very, very you know, like in a very bad shape, let's call it that way. He's covered with something yellow. He's basically becoming one with nature. He's decomposing. He's, you know, being covered with moss and with the yellow pus there. So maybe this is the reason why it was specifically shown to our Innies, so the story of Kier and his brother Dieter would have more impact. Now, this moment was kind of funny. I don't know. Once again, Dylan is being Dylan, and it always makes me smile. Just, you know, even if I'm not laughing, I'm smiling when, you know, Milchik is talking about Kier going to the waterfall because he didn't want to hear his brother scream, and Dylan is like, yeah, that's smart. This was really funny. So yeah, this is when he first encountered the Temper Wu. It was like this brown, the gaunt bride, so skinny basically girl who was the half of the height of a, you know, a regular natural woman. Kinda makes you think maybe this was a child there, because we have seen, you know, like the Eagans want to make children to be severed. We have Miss Huan here, and we're talking about 18 somethings, so yeah, they were like marrying to children left and right there in this period. So maybe this whole imagery of this, you know, weirdly shaped bride is once again because one of them was supposed to marry some girl, you know, either Kier or Dieter, or maybe Kier was supposed to marry one, but he wanted to marry Imogen or some shit like this, and this is why he killed Dieter, and this is why he killed this bride. And this fucker is probably killing a lot of people, and we're gonna get to this right now, because like this image, we can see the bride, look at her hair, like she's basically bald on top of it, and the hair is only on the sides of her, and you know, Kier is basically kid here. It looks like he's basically 8 or 9 years old, a little bit young in my opinion to soil the land with your lineage or whatever, but you know, like everybody develops with their own pace, I guess. Anyway, we move forward when he's talking about, you know, what the Wu told him, that you suffered his wantonness. So basically, once again, this is what makes me think that he killed something within himself, like this weakness. Let not weakness be in your veins, or some shitty quote like that from Kier. We have seen this in season 1. I think some crazy person like Kier would probably think of himself as a couple of personalities, like there is a Kier inside of him that is scared, that is whiny, that wants to live in the forest, and you need to kill this personality, this desire, and this I inside of yourself in order to become this, you know, like a unique, almost godlike person as Kier wants to present himself. And the whole chaos whore line was a bit weird for me. I don't have any interpretation for that. If you do, I would love to read it in the comments. Now, as I told you, Kier is a bit crazy, because the second chapter, that it's called Kier and the Thieving Nanny, I mean, when we look at this image, we can see the nanny here. She's standing holding something, and look at the boy behind her. Look at the pose. I don't see a knife there, but this pose, you know, like this, it's almost like he's ready to punch her or stab her in the back. Maybe little Kier grew up in a rich family with a very powerful father, and he was a complete psychopath, and he was killing people left and right. He killed his own brother, he killed his nanny, he killed maybe some other people, and then in his mind he went like a little bit Dexter. He find the reason why he killed those people. So this Dieter, he was weak, you know, he was whining all the time. And this nanny, she was stealing from us. And you know, this goat that I killed in front of my father, by the way, the goat, the sacrifice, kind of works with the logic of him killing all of his tempers, you know, killing real life human beings and animals, and then assigning them some kind of a temper and explaining his own psycho mind with this, you know, weird lore mythology of him, you know, taming thy tempers or some shit like that. So as I told you, this whole concept of them going through this whole journey, starting where Dieter and Kier started, going in the same direction, going to the same ending point, even dressed like them from this period, from 1860 something, like something as you heard in the podcast from a couple of 100 years ago. This is all works with Lumon logic. This is all kind of connects also to episode 3 with the images, with the drawings that Lumon board gave to Milchik. Feel that you're part of Kier. You see yourself in the image of Kier. You all have to become Kier. This Kier is obsessed with, soiling the soil with his own lineage. Everybody's supposed to be Kier. And if you're not Kier, we're gonna make you Kier. So yeah, it all kind of feels like they're supposed to repeat this journey, and probably in the end of those 48 hours, they were supposed to kill those twins. They were supposed to kill them. They would be the representation of their Audi, of at least them being on the outside, and this is how it was supposed to end in the mind of Lumon. Like we can see that everybody is wearing those kind of weird clothes. Even Milchik is wearing those kind of like weird thingies here on his pants. So yeah, we move forward to, as I told you, Helly or Helena. She's basically, right now we can already understand, she is simulating Helly. She knows how Helly behaves, and she knows that Helly would laugh at this story, because Helly would always laugh at the absurdity of Lumon's lore and lore's stories. So she is basically laughing, but Milchik is obviously not very happy, and we can see another tell that Helly is actually Helena, because Irving was right. Helly was never cruel, and this was cruel when she was basically taunting Irving, can say to him that he's not gonna see birth anymore in his life, basically pushing his the weakest point of his personality right now. It basically hurt Irving very much, and Dylan is not on his side, because Milchik's strategy of you want to see your wife, you want to see your family, you're supposed to be one of the good ones, kind of works, and then Dylan is gonna feel very bad for it. Yeah, anyway, we have the sex scene, obviously, between Mark's Innie and Helly's Audi. So there's a scene here between actually Mark and Helena. You remember the throuple that Mr. Milchik was talking about, Cobell and Mark's Innie and Audi? We have a similar situation here, and another very big clue with the whole red color here. And I can see here a very interesting development in Helena's story, and we kind of assume that this is the case already. We've seen how she's fascinated with Helly, with her force of nature kind of spirit, with the way how she is free. She's actually doesn't really stop at anything. She says what she thinks, and Helena's supposed to be very self-controlled. Like when her weird father is telling her some weird shit, like, you are freakishly wordily Muppet or some shit like that, she's supposed to react calmly and be like, yes, father. And then there's somebody puts a camera on her, and she needs to tell the story how she became drunk and she invented so stupid story, and that she's supposed to be controlled all the time. So she doesn't really like who she is on the outside. For her, this is an escape. This is not only a plan to work Mark and to help him to achieve the 100% result on Cult Harbor. This is actually for her a place to be free, to be something that she never was. Anyway, we move into this moment, and I don't know if this is already a result of reintegration or something else, because timeline-wise, we have no idea when this happens. The last moment we have seen in episode 3 is Mark reintegrated, and suddenly everybody is in this place, and we can see Gemma here in the middle of this, very spicy scene, also in a color red. So I don't know what this is, but hopefully in episode 5 we're gonna learn. And right now we are actually getting to the most interesting, in my humble opinion, moment of this episode. Irving wakes up in the middle of his own dream. So once again, you don't wake up in the middle of your dream. It kind of feels like a dream inside of a dream. Can it happen? Once again, in Matrix, everybody was dreaming while they were connected to Matrix. So it actually can happen, and maybe even there is a concept like that in psychology. Anyway, it's Irving in his suit, and he finds a very weird place. By the way, no CGI, the whole foggy scene, it is real. They were supposed to film a different scene this day, but then they saw there's a fog, and they decided to shoot this scene with the fog in this day because it's gonna be amazing, and it's actually is. So we've seen the screen with some kind of flies or cicadas. I don't know if it's this episode of From or something. Maybe it is actually, we're gonna see a very interesting moment here, but look at this computer, and the name of the file is Montauk. Now, this has a lot of meaning. Obviously, there is the whole Montauk conspiracy. We have seen this location in Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind. There is whole reference to the Stranger Things that used to be called Montauk Project before they were called Stranger Things. This is like the name of the project before they started to film it. It was called Montauk Project because the whole conspiracy says that there was like some kind of a base in the middle of New York, and in this base the government made experiments on telekinesis, Stranger Things, time travel, and mind control. Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind, and probably Severance. Now there is an interesting idea I want you to think about it. Right now I'm working on a video that's probably going to explain a lot about the whole Severance process. After the episode 3 with Rigabi giving us information about the 5 waves of the brain, how they work, and how they can be splitted, there is enough for me to actually build something very interesting about it. But check this situation. So like a couple of days ago, I'm watching some YouTube videos about, how the brain works, how the waves are working. And the host of the video says that basically, how the brain works. This is a gray matter and it has a lot of electrodes and neurons that are basically moving from one point to another. This is how basically we are thinking. Some of our memories are stored in, let's say, I don't know, in the frontal cortex, and some of them may be stored in the amygdala. So yeah, you kind of already can divide the brain if you want to, the memories that you remember because they are related to something that you experienced or to your general knowledge. So there's a lot of information there. But then the host says that there is something that's called nucleus, and this is basically a cluster of neurons. And as soon as I heard cluster, it couldn't leave me anymore. I was like, okay, I heard this word many times in Severance. When our Innies are being taught how to find those numbers, they always use the word cluster. Now, this can be a coincidence, and maybe the numbers are not actually neurons, and this is completely unrelated. But you probably agree with me already, there's a lot about mind control here in this place. There is a lot of times where we can see that Milchik basically can tell even somebody like Helly, no, do, and then she does. There is a lot of mind-bending situation here. And especially after this scene, I even more and more convinced with the Montauk Project, with the whole mind control theory, that they are all somehow working the neurons of the mind. And every time they're seeing a cluster that invokes some kind of emotion in them, probably this is a nucleus that is responsible for said emotion. Because there's a lot of them, like once again, in the amygdala, you're gonna have a different emotions, like the fear, or maybe, I don't know, the malice, the desire to hurt somebody. The way you want to be playful, this is gonna be in the prefrontal cortex. I'm just speedballing here, I don't remember where which one is, but you understand the concept. So yeah, when we look in here at the numbers, I have a theory that those are mind neurons, and when you see a couple of them, a cluster of them, you are actually identifying a nucleus that is responsible for said emotion. So here in this moment he suddenly sees Bert, and by the way he sees exactly where Dylan sits. Like in this moment, I'm gonna show you the image right now, I didn't cut it very well, I'm gonna show it to you on the full screen. He's looking in front of him, and in front of him there is Dylan. So he sees Bert where he usually sees his best friend in the whole office. It kinda makes sense because, like, even though Dylan is obviously not the same as Bert, Bert is a romantic interest and Dylan is just best friend, so it's not the same. But once again, in a dream, it always worked like that. Many times it worked like that. In the place of someone who is very important to you, you're gonna see somebody who is very important to you. And this is why he sees Bert in front of him. But in this moment, when he looks at the creepy bride, at the golem here, she's sitting where? Exactly where Helly R is sitting usually. Like this is the moment when you can see this is Bert, this is Helly. So once again, after Irving wakes up, he realizes that something is very wrong with Helly, actually Helena. Now let's compare those two screens. On the right side you can see the screen that Irving was working on, and on the left side you can see the screen that the creepy bride was working on. I don't know why, I don't know if it's even important, but it's very, very similar. It's not identical, but it's very similar. This one is very blurry, so you cannot really read the name of the file, but it kind of looks like it's almost the same. Even though the first letter looks like a W, it can still be an M, okay, because once again it's blurry. In the end, it kind of looks like you have a K. Those two letters kind of look like they O and U, so it's a Montauk or Wontook or something like this. And here, let's look at the numbers, the 253433, the 253443, so there's just one change, then it's 714, then it's like 5 or 6, 4, 2, so it's very, very similar, like here, 572, sorry, 512, 512, 241, 242, 542, 542. You can like check me out here, you know, like if we're not gonna spend the whole video, you know, going through all of the numbers, it's gonna be very boring for you, but if you want, pause the video right now and check for yourself how similar it is. Now once again, maybe, you know, the creators were just a bit lazy, so they copy pasted the screen and maybe changed just a couple of numbers for the sake of it. Or maybe there is something here. I don't see any connection why it feels like that, but once again, since it's a dream, maybe this is why it's very similar and you can barely distinguish that there's any difference between them. Or if you have any other idea, once again, I'm sending you to the comments many times today because you usually have a very good theories and many times you notice something that I don't notice. And by the way, since we talked already about that, I would love to invite you on this Sunday, just like on the previous one. We're gonna make a live stream and we're gonna watch a different creators on YouTube. Before I make my videos, I don't watch anybody else. I want to stay as open-minded as possible and I want to give you just everything that I noticed, not that somebody else noticed. But then again, I don't want to be too proud about it and I want to be able to get all of the information, and sometimes, many times actually, different creators will notice different things. Last time it was a blast, we had like 170 people live, the whole chat was exploding, so many interesting theories, so many interesting conversation. We've seen Think Story, we've seen real enigmas and theories, we've seen Jeremy Ice in Fire, we have seen Peter Peters. I was very impressed by Screen Crush, the best review I have seen by far, even though everybody else was very good, including me, by the way, like way better than my review. So this time we're gonna probably see someone else. Hopefully we're gonna give some stage to different creators. So if you are one of those creators that don't have enough views, don't have enough subscribers, and you want to be shared on my channel, write to me in the comments. Or if you have a creator that you want to promote, write to me in the comments. But you're gonna have to make the episode 4 review until this moment. If not, there's nothing for me to see. We're gonna be watching everybody else's reviews on episode 4 and it's gonna be fun. We're gonna have some laughs and it's gonna be very interesting. So you've been warned, Sunday we are getting together and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Moving back to our review, so we have suddenly all of those numbers. I don't know once again if this has any meaning, but we don't have all of the numbers here. We have only 7, 5, 4 and 1. Look, if you want to start analyzing the numeric symbolism, the whole numerology, you can, like, it's not going to be over until tomorrow. There is too much about it. There's a lot of different ideas. Everybody has their own meaning, so I'm not going to stop on it. But once again, I noticed something, I share. And here, once again, a symbolism of them all being in the matrix of somebody else's mind. And we can see that Irving, him, being part of all of those numbers. And in this moment, the numbers are changing to letters, and the only letters we're seeing here is A-E-G-A-N. Eagan, basically. And he understands that Helly is an Eagan. He makes the connection, something wrong with the bride that sits in the place of Helly. All of everything that he was suspicious about, like the night gardener, the way she has been nice to him for some reason, everything connects and he realizes that she's an Eagan. And then we have the moment with the golem. And by the way, I told you, from fans, I mean, we have a bride and look at her eyes. This is obviously a monster from Fromville. I'm kidding, of course, but anybody else is gonna appreciate this not. And look, this is one of those moments when I'm not really sure whether it's all a simulation or it's actually maybe a real place, because the way Helena looks at the falls, it feels like this is a place that's very familiar to her, like she's been here. She maybe experienced this whole story of Dieter and Kier, and maybe she was here and she also killed her twin or something like this. The smile that she has, you know, this is the I know, like this is the I know smile. This is I've been here smile, and this place is very special to me. I have some very fond memories of this place. And then when, you know, like everybody understand that something wrong, and by the way, here we can see a road, how they actually arrived here maybe with the car or something like this, and then she screams, "God damn it, Seth, do it." This is another moment that kind of makes me think that maybe after all this is not a simulation, because if this is a simulation, what does she care to be murdered? You know, if you are killed in a simulation, once again, if it's the same as Matrix, if you are killed in a simulation, you basically die. But if you die in a dream, you just wake up. So once again, I'm not entirely convinced that this is all a Matrix kind of situation, this is a simulation kind of situation, but I'm definitely gonna make a separate video on this. So yeah, like once again, Helly was never cruel. He understood that this is not her, this is Helena. He understands that she's an Eagan, and then we have the Milchik telling to remove the Glasgow block now. And if you remember season 1, we have seen all of those orders that the administration can do on our Innies. We have the beehive, we have the clean slate, maybe this is the one that Helena wanted to do for Cobell in the previous episode. We have some kind of an elephant, we have the freeze frame, and we have the Glasgow. This is the same place where we also have the OTC, the overtime, whatever. So yeah, there is something that is Glasgow, there's also the beehive. And by the way, if you didn't notice, Apple released a book called The UUR. It's actually not a full book, it's only like 8 chapters, but this is basically Ricken's book. And I also made a review of this book, and you are more than welcome to check this out, and you obviously have to check this book. It's about half an hour, 40 minutes of reading, but you're gonna enjoy a lot about this book. And the reason I bring it up, because beehive is very important in this book. I don't know if it's related to the system, but it is very important. So anyway, like this moment was filmed already not in the same location. They basically in the studio, they built a tank, and they had an operator there with the camera filming Helly, and the actress is doing once again absolutely amazing work. You know, she's basically drowning underwater, and then she suddenly switches to Helly. I mean, to act something like this in this kind of a scenario, being underwater, I mean, once again, hats off to the actress. So the episode ends with Milchik basically assassinates and executes Irving in front of his friends. And I don't think it's gonna be very, very good for Lumon. Even though Irving kinda accepted, because once again, as I told you in episode 1, he was already ready to go out. He didn't really want to live without Bert. He didn't really want to live outside. This is not a world for him. So it is okay. He did everything he could. He understood who is the mole. He opened the eyes of his friends. He hurt Lumon, and now he's ready to go. But then Milchik is saying like, you're gonna be completely deleted, you're gonna be erased, it's like you have never been alive. And I think this is something that's gonna come back and bite the Lumon in the ass, because we have seen already many signs of Innies unifying under one banner, not different departments. And you remember what kind of motivation Mark used in this episode. He was telling them like, if Miss Casey was made to be disappeared, how can you be sure this is something that's not gonna happen to you? And right now they have seen Irving basically not doing anything wrong. He found them all, and he was ready to kill after, you know, the story of the whole murder, him being Kier devotee and everything else. So nothing kind of wrong here. He saved his friend, he brought Helly R back. Thank you. I knew already that it was Helena, but I was still hoping that we're gonna see Helly R not in the last episode, and we have 5 more episodes, so hopefully we're gonna see Helly R way more than that. Yay! And then seeing Milkshake executing him in front of their eyes, they're gonna be angry. They're gonna be really, really angry, and they're gonna tell this story to every Innie they're gonna see. And every Innie is gonna know that there was some guy named Irving, especially OD is gonna know about this, that some guy named Irving was completely made to be disappeared, like he never even existed. Not only he was killed, basically being retired, you're basically killed when somebody retires you. But they also want to completely erase any memory of him. Now, if this is not a power you want to rebel against, I don't know what actually is. So, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, please let me know what can I do to make it better. But if you want to support this video, you can like, subscribe, write an interesting comment. You can support me on Patreon, on YouTube, but please never do this if you are feeling a little bit stretched out, if you don't have enough finances for you, for your favorite charity, for your friends, for everybody else, for food, then for, you know, for the street cats and the dogs around your house. Only after that, if you have like a couple of bucks to share and you feel in your heart and your soul that you want to support this channel, then go ahead and do it. Anything else, please don't. I want to be able to sleep and feel good about myself. I don't want to think that maybe somebody will have less money because of me and my channel. So right now, obviously the video about this whole simulation is not released yet. I didn't even start working on it, but if you're watching this review a couple of days later, and right now I already made this video, so it's gonna appear here. Meanwhile, I'm gonna put my review of episode 3 in case you just noticing my channel, in case you are watching me for the first time. You can go ahead and check my previous reviews. I think it's gonna be entertaining for you if you did enjoy this one too. So, thank you. Let's see you on the next one. Bye!